Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a serious video. Now, we do these every now and then because not every video has to be a TED Talk, but every now and then it's nice to leave the memes at the door and just go more with hard facts and statistics. Because, one thing I've noticed about entrepreneurship, finance, all these things, there's a lot of really popular myths that always get spread around. And the way to get past those is usually with statistics. I did this with the trending tab back in the day. People are so superstitious about what's on YouTube trending. And so we just collected the data and we found out what's actually on it. And we found some really interesting things. And I want to do the same thing here today. I think you can do the same thing in any part of life. Just look, what do the statistics say about that thing? And today I want to talk to you guys about our entrepreneurs, and specifically one of the greatest questions of all time, which is like, how old are successful entrepreneurs? There's this really common thought going around. You've seen it everywhere, not only on the show, but even more perniciously in popular media, that the young founder, well, they're successful, but all innovative founders, they're young, man. They're teenagers. They're high school dropouts or college dropouts, or they're in their 20s. It's people like this. There are mockable versions of this, which is like self-made millionaire at 20, a global group of enterprises. You've seen a lot of this on this show. You have the CEO of teenage money. You have people like this taking advantage of this preconceived notion. You have the teen executive. You guys have seen this guy before,
how much money
right?
cryptocurrency made me in the last.
So how much I made off crypto in 30 days. But there's also just like more explicit examples of this in mainstream culture. Things like The Social Network, where we follow Mark Zuckerberg, this celebrated young founder from college. And this is what a lot of people think of when they think of a successful Silicon Valley founder, someone who's going to change the world. They're thinking of someone in their 20s, maybe 30s, but that's basically it. And because of this, we've had some con men crop up and gain credibility because honestly, people expect this is the look. They think this is the look of the young or the successful founder. They think it's people who look like Stephen Keen, right? He's a Ponzi scheme artist who's now going to be in jail. They think it looks like this, Elizabeth Holmes. You guys all remember her. And I would contend across entrepreneurship widely, there's just this idea that, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to rush, you have to hurry, you have to maybe skip college, or if you go to college, you have to start a company right after college, right? If you're going to have any chance of being a unicorn, a $1 billion company, if you're going to have any chance of making something of yourself, there's this huge rush. And this is played off of in popular culture, in what we see in these like get rich quick schemes, in what we see from, confidence artists, and even in what we see in media. Right? You have all the 30 under 30s. Like, these are the boldest young entrepreneurs you need to know in 2019. And it's just a bunch of like super young people. This is what we think of. This is what's shown to us for what founders act like, look like, whatever. Basically, none of this is true in the data. The young founder is kind of a myth, especially the young successful founder. So this is a study by Harvard. They did this in 2018. Great read. I'll link it in the show notes. But they found that the actual age, the average age of a successful startup founder is actually 45. Yes, actually, it's perpetuated across all these media companies that the young age is, these people are actually young. Like, the average TechCrunch award is given to someone who's 31. The average age of Inc. magazine is 29. So we're showing only the young entrepreneurs, but in actual fact, the average age of startup founders is overwhelmingly not only in the 40s, but if you look at the highest growth startups, meaning the ones that actually made the difference, who actually got past that hurdle and they're the top 1% of companies, so they're doing well, overwhelmingly they're founded by older guys. So that means, again, if you account for the fact that just more people are starting companies when they're 40 than when they're 20, you also have to account for the fact that they're also more successful than their younger counterparts. And this makes sense, by the way, because of course, more experience makes you more likely to be successful. That's true across the board with all skills. The older you get, the better you tend to get. So why do we not believe this about entrepreneurship? When you track how likely someone is to succeed, their likelihood of success with their company spikes in their 40s. And my point here is not to dissuade you from starting a company. That's not it at all. It's to say, guys, you can take your time. You can have patience. Entrepreneurship is a long-term game. And if you go by the media, it looks like something that you can only be a part of when you're under 30, right? And if you don't participate under 30, there's no chance you'll be successful. And of course, the numbers show the exact opposite. The more experience you get in a field, the more likely you are going to have a successful company in that field, because you'll know more about it. If you go work a job in an industry for 20 years and then go start a company relevant to that industry, of course you're going to be more likely to be successful. But that's not what we see in mainstream media. And not only that, it seems that even the people who invest in these young founders also are sort of confused about this stuff. Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, once quipped that the cutoff for in investors' heads is 32. After 32, they start to be a little skeptical. So it's not just like entrepreneurs that have this, thought in their head. It's not just young entrepreneurs. It's even the investors themselves are sort of confused about what makes someone successful. Everyone's sort of been led away, Pied Pipered away from the truth by this, Silicon Valley fantasy that the young founders, the guys who are going to revolutionize the world, are all these young dudes. Actually, we find out that's completely false. Even in software, by the way, like the Silicon Valley thing, the average age is still 40 years old. Okay, even in a place where it's like, it's mostly, the young people are known to, be more likely to do startups in that field. No, it's still 40. And they're saying that in oil and gas and biotech, the average age is closer to 47. The point is not the specifics. The point, I'm not saying like, hey, don't start a company till you're 40, you're 30, whatever. What I'm saying is you have time, and you have to push back against these, not only the con men who are telling you that, oh, I'm, successful when I'm 20 years old. That's probably not true. But also the fact that even these companies who are entrepreneurship magazines or whatever are presenting you a picture of entrepreneurship that is also just completely wrong. I think this sentence sums up the contradictory nature of this whole thing best. If you're faced with two entrepreneurs and know nothing about them besides their age, you would do better on average by betting on the older one. And yet, I bet if you gave that to a bunch of VCs, they would probably pick the younger one. Now, the last interesting thing from this article that I want to highlight here is they talk about, the obvious outliers of these young guys who we've lionized, like Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all these guys. And basically what they say is that while it's true they started their companies young, when you actually look at where they made the most impact, how old they were when they made their most cutting edge innovation, it turns out they're actually, were very likely to be quite old. Steve Jobs made the iPhone when he was 52. They're talking about the Amazon's biggest growth came when Bezos was 45. The point is that even among people who were entrepreneurs young, they actually also just get better over time, because of course they do. This makes sense intuitively when you think about it, but if you just kind of unquestionably go with the narrative, you're going to be thinking that young founders, are just getting outside of college and reinventing the world. That's not the way the world works. So what does this mean for you if you're someone who wants to go into entrepreneurship? Well, it just means that you can relax. You can take your time to sharpen your tools, to work a job where you might get some experience, or you can take your time and realize that most people don't succeed in entrepreneurship until later in life, and really understand that that gives you breathing room. This isn't to insult young founders. This is to say that, hey, you don't have to reinvent all of humanity by the time you're 29. There's no magical cutoff where we say you're disqualified from being a great entrepreneur because now you turned 30. In fact, quite the opposite is true. So to all of you guys out there who are entrepreneurs, I hope you learned something. To those of you who are not, I hope you also took something away. Thanks for watching a serious video of Coffeezilla. We don't do these too often, but let me know what you thought of my TED Talk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
I know what you mean. This ain't what it seemed. Nothing but a trick, trying to sell me on a dream, but that was where you lost me. Wake up and smell the coffee.